Okay, shall we start? First of all, thank you everyone for coming. If you are here, it can mean either two things. You were looking for a quiet place to take a nap, or you are interested in moderation. Hopefully, is the second one. So, first, some details about me. I became an engineer. Okay, the camera. I became an engineer in 2005, and I was a C++ programmer, programming for speech recognition software. So then I became a full-time Drupal developer in mid-2009, so I'm not all that experienced as other people around here. But it grew on me, all this Drupal thing, and started evangelizing other people and trying to contribute. My username in Drupal.org is eoipso with a 0, and not so prolific contributor. But I try to contribute doing speeches in the Spanish community. So I put myself on the stage and I get nervous. Okay? I'm currently working in Crononauta. It's a company in Barcelona. We work on Drupal projects from top to bottom. We start with specifications and end up installing Varnish and doing all this system magic that do other folks at the team. So today, I'm not planning on to start yet another fight on what Drupal is or what Drupal should be. Drupal can be seen as a development framework or as a CMS. And I think Drupal does pretty great on both aspects, as a Drupal framework and a content management system. But today I'm talking about Drupal as a CMS. Later on, after lunch, with Moises over there, we are talking about theming, and we are using Drupal more than a CMS as a framework. So I'm using today Drupal as a CMS. Okay, moderation. Moderation is not for everyone. Okay, if you have a blog or you have a small site, you don't need moderation. Okay, moderation is based on this ugly thing that is the lack of trust. So if you don't have confidence on the people who is writing the content that is going to be on your site because you are a big important boss, you need moderation, because if you don't, you might end up having live things on your site that you don't want to be there. And even if they are only for a second, you must be absolutely certain that there will be a screenshot in Twitter after 5 seconds of that thing being online. So this is typically for big websites and big non-profit organizations that have typically more than 100 employees, and the boss doesn't know the name of all them. So if you don't know the name of the employee, you cannot trust on what he's writing or the content he's authoring. So the content is a sensitive matter, because if you think that your code is sensitive, it's important, and you wouldn't allow anyone to tamper with your code or deploy it or do something strange with it, companies invest a lot of money on communications and on marketing. So they need a system that they can rely on to put their content online with all the quality control that they need. Things like this are really happening. If you think that it's difficult to get it on paper, it's actually much easier to do it in a digital world where people think that, well, I can edit it afterwards if it's not complete or whatever. Well, this is funny, but I'm guessing that both the responsive, the people who wrote this and the boss who was behind him, they are both unemployed right now. Okay, so moderation can be really important. And the solution I'm proposing today is not one of my own. It's Workbench moderation and was sponsored and developed by Palantir. I don't know if I'm saying it right. If someone here knows how to say Palantir. But it's part of a larger suite. The Workbench suite has a bunch of modules that do several things, always oriented on the content management part of Drupal, because Drupal being a CMS is kind of crappy on the content management part, meaning that the users need a place to go where they find their content easily, the content that they edited, the content that they need to edit next, etc. So Workbench is in this line. So as I said, Workbench is kind of a superheroes league that you can use one part of a Workbench on your site, not using another. Actually, if you are planning to use Workbench moderation, you don't even need to start using Workbench, even though it's a really good module that you can benefit from, but it's not required to function. So Workbench is the place where users go to find their content. Okay, it's a centralized place where they can find their content, and you don't need to give them special access to admin content node. You don't need to build custom views to reinvent the wheel time after time or build your dashboards. Workbench gives you one of the many solutions that you may find in this matter. Workbench access goes one step forward in this lack of trust, and only authors, people from certain role, to create or edit content on certain sections that you define either by menu tree or by a taxonomy. And well, I haven't really used Workbench access that much, but the idea is more or less this. Workbench media and files has the same strategy as Workbench does, with content, but with media, integrated with the media module, that if you are not working, some people may say that you are doing it wrong. Okay, it's a very good module to insert media on your site, and Workbench files is the same as file for PDF documents or whatever files you might be using on your site. Okay, in the upper left corner, you can see a nice big picture of George Demet, who is the founder and CEO of Palantir. And this is a screenshot of Workbench, where you have an ID of the person who is the user who is logged in. And okay, here is the view. This is actually a view. You can customize it however you want. And if you are a panels guy, there is also a page manager plugin to custom all this. So this is the view with all the content that George has edited. And here is all the content that he has access on. And several links and information for this content. On the upper right corner, there is Workbench access here with an example of a museum, giving the idea that people on the historics department cannot write posts or histories on the science department. Okay, so the content management is in that sense. And Workbench files, and lastly, Workbench moderation. This is the moderation tab that we will see later on the presentation. Okay, a real-world example here could be a small magazine, maybe talking about Drupal. And the client could come and ask you, well, you know, clients, for them, it's always easy to do these things, but the actual solution, it might not be that easy. They just needed to approve some content created by some contributors that they have. They are not on their team, so they need to approve it first, and then correct the content once the content is approved, maybe by a linguistic department, and then publish it. But then at the testing stage, or they realize that they have a pretty special use cases, like, well, Bob is not really an editor, but for some kind of content, he needs to act as an editor. Or things like, okay, editors can write their content, but they can also approve content. But they cannot approve their own content. So cases like this sometimes may make these things a lot of troubles. So the first thing you need to do when you face one of these problems is to define your strategy. Your strategy needs to go from designing the states. In this case, the states the content may sit on are draft, which is content, ongoing content, needs approval, the content is ready to be sent to ready for correction. And once the linguistic department has put some style or whatever they do, they go for ready for publishing, where the publisher or the big boss hits the button and publishes on the web, or maybe he can schedule it or do whatever he needs to do in this case. So the next thing is defining the actual workflow, because the goal here is going from draft to published, but the important thing is how you get there. Because if you go from draft to published with a straight arrow, all the other things make no sense, right? And there is no point on doing moderation if you just publish it. Okay, in this case, we are only moving one step forward at a time, is the only thing you can do, or back to the draft state. So if you find any problems that you need to address, you move it back to the draft state and start the moderation process all over again. Again, this is just an example. This might be a strategy, but you need to figure out your own and to design it. After that, it's important to define who is going to do what, right? If one person, let's say a writer, can moderate this content through all the states, again, there is no point, because he can make the draft and moderate to one state, moderate to the other state, and then actually go to published. Okay, so different people need to define what they do or what they don't. Okay, and at the end, you can organize your final thought on, I don't know, maybe adding some phases or adding other considerations here for, oops. Okay, the screen is dead. Other considerations like the writer can create new content, new drafts, and edit their own drafts. So once they save the content, they might edit it again to publish the content or the story. The editors can act as writers as well, but they have another privilege, that is editing content, and the corrector can only edit content if it's in the state number 3, which is ready for correction, or send it to draft and push it forward. I know this is just an example, but there are a lot of things to you need to think about it first, and this is a good way to go. First, design your system, and then start building it. Here, the concepts, the important concepts are three: states, transitions, and permissions. States and transitions are like the board in a board game, but permissions are the rules how you play this game. Okay, so the same game can have a different meaning if you are playing the game differently. So permissions are the most important part involving all this, because you want to forbid some people from publishing content or doing some things on content. Okay, but starting with states, what they do is they define situations where the content can sit on. So it's a place where the content stays until someone does something with this content. This usually relate to roles. Okay, you usually have one state per role, but this is not necessarily true. Right? You can define states where different roles have access on, or maybe you can have several states where one role has access on, and they are user-defined in Workbench. Okay, you can define your own states, but you cannot get rid of the draft state and the publish state, because they have a special meaning in the node table and in the node revision table. And well, if you're moderating, you need to have a draft state and a publish state. But again, these are not optional. You can edit the label, but you cannot get rid of them. And well, this is the idea. You have different states and different articles sitting on each state at the same time. We are thinking again and again this for a concrete piece of content, but this is a global process that is happening for a lot of stories at the same time. Transitions. There is a UI in Workbench moderation that allows you and makes it easy to make transitions from one state to the other. So you first define the states, then all states become available here. You define the transitions, and lastly, you define the permissions who can make this transition on each case. Okay, so transitions, again, they are the changes from state A to state B. Pretty simple, and usually relate to actions. Sometimes it can mean that you are finishing your content, or approving a piece of content, or correcting a content. So they usually relate to actions. So when you take your specifications, the PDF the client sends you in plain words, you can circle the main verbs and translate them to transitions. And well, again, they are toggled by the user having this content. So the example here would be in our small magazine. There is a writer, maybe one of us, who is writing a post about it, the future of Drupal, summarizing all the experiences and all we have learned here in the DrupalCamp. And since it's a big, well, an important small magazine, okay, you cannot approve it, so you just write it and you send it to be approved. So this is a transition. It's important to note here that there is a limitation with this system that transitions cannot happen in a parallel way. Okay, they are always sequential because things like, okay, put the content in the ready for publishing state whenever it's approved and it's corrected by linguistics. Okay, you need to approve it first before linguistics can start with it. Okay, this is a limitation, and folks at Palantir are currently working on the version 2 of the module. I don't know if it's already out on the air, but they are integrating it with other strategies that are growing up, like the machine state module, etc. So permissions, they are the key of this, because when you are defining this moderation system, you want each person working only and focusing only on things they can do. So not only in the architecture of the system, but also in the UI that you are going to present to people that they may not really know anything about Drupal. They only know how to author content, or they know if the content follows the magazine styling rules. This is important that you only show the things that they are allowed to do. And when you are crafting the permissions, this becomes a really important matter. And here, for defining this, you need to ask yourself a lot of questions. Like, for instance, in our example, can the author of the content edit the note while it's needs approval? Because maybe I forgot something. I want to add it. Well, it's up to you, but here, if the moderator has already started moderating your content and you edit it, well, the good way to go would be to move it back to draft and start all over again. But again, this is your choice. Another thing is, can the editor edit my content? Actually, it's my content. It's my name that is going to be there printed. So you can allow the editors to just go around all this trouble to pushing it back to draft and again to need approval, and allow them to edit content. And well, there are a lot of questions to ask yourself for a particular state. Because at the end, you need to provide the best possible experience for the site that you are building, and each case is different, and it gets trickier and trickier, because here we are assuming that you only has a content type that could be a story, but you may need different states for your content that is going to be moderated for stories or for events. You need, I don't know, a new state for your content type event that is reviewing the site availability. Okay, then what happens? All this system becomes more complex. Here, the Palantir guys thought of this, and they put this kind of hidden in the code, where they allow you to work with different specifications per node type, because you may want the same states for each content type, but different transitions or different permissions. Or maybe you need a custom permission per state, or do other things like the big boss needs to be notified whenever a post arrives to the ready for publishing state. So all these things keep happening, and this module tries to solve all these situations. Okay, and how does this work? The important things that Workbench moderation does are rewriting the interface just to clarify the workflow for the people using it. Workbench moderation is a part of your system that is going to be used every day. So here, if you have any mistake that could occur based on the UI, it's going to happen, because it's going to be used a lot, this interface. So rewrite the interface to clarify workflow, and reuses the built-in revision system that Drupal ships with. This is important because it adds a lot of compatibility with other modules like div or, well, with all other modules using revisions. Okay, loads moderation information along with the node. This is extremely useful when you are writing your own hooks and you need information about the moderation state on a particular node when you're loading it, maybe in a hook view or a hook update, and you need to do something if the previous state was whatever and the current state is this other state, right? You have all the information in the node, and stores the information about the history of the moderation. It's not the same if the node, sometimes it's not the same if the node went straight from draft to published than if the node needed to go back again to the draft state maybe 3 times. Well, it's an information that you might use in some way. And, well, it integrates with panels, with views, and with rules. And integrating with rules gives you the power to do almost anything from the UI. Okay, the key of all this and the important feature here is that with content moderation you gain the ability to have one published piece of content while you are working on a new draft. Okay, when you publish a new revision in Drupal, let's say a traditional node revision, the latest editable version is the latest one in the node table, right? So if you edit that version, once it's published, you edit it and you hit save, you're updating the content, and you are bypassing all the moderation process. So Workbench moderation reuses the information in the node revision and adds another concept that is the current version and the last version. The last version is only the same as the current version if the last version is published, but you can have a more advanced version without having it published on live. Okay, so everything is the same until you have a node published on your live site. Okay. So this is the UI. The rewrite of the UI I was talking about is by reusing the tab system and adding some nifty blocks to transition content from one state to the other. Here there is an example where this user datafrosp wrote a lorem ipsum story and then saved it. Okay, so he can view the draft and other people having access to this node can view the draft, edit the draft, or moderate the draft. And by changing the names of the labels clarifies the workflow a lot. Okay, because later on, when there is a published version but no new draft, you have the View tab here, says View Published. The Edit tab starts a new draft, and well, the moderation is the same. And when you have a published version and a new ongoing draft, you can view the published version, the draft version, and edit the draft you are working on. Okay, this is the content of the moderation tab, and here you can see that the different revisions that you have are on each one on a row, and each row has different information with the name of the node, the date, options to revert to that revision, this is pretty standard Drupal stuff. And here you have the information about the revision. So when you are a big boss and want to find out who wrote that new paper story talking about Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic, you can come here and see who approved that content, right? Here you can see that someone had been cheating because he went from draft to published, and it was the admin user. So the moderation process was bypassed in this case. It also, as I said, integrates with other modules working with standard revisions. Like div, you can show the differences between, let's say, this last version and the published version, which are on red and on green. About the views integration, you have at your disposal the node moderation history, having this impact on fields, filters, sorts, and arguments. You can find here the history ID of the moderation, the state where the content is, the state where the content was previously, the timestamp, if it's published or not published, and if this is the current revision, because you may be seeing older revisions to, I don't know, to find some content that you forgot that was there. Okay, so you can use all this information in all the aspects of a view. Additionally to this, you have this content type is being moderated filter, so you can list only content that is actually being moderated in your moderation views, and a relationship from the user who did the moderation, who did this transition, to the user record. So you can find the role or whatever information you need about the user right in views. The moderation info that is loaded in the node is basically 3 records. The current revision that you are seeing, if it's different from the other 2, and the other 2 are the current revision, which is the most actual revision, or the published revision. Okay, and the information is the node ID, the version ID, again the from state and the state, the user who did the changes, the timestamp, and the published and current booleans. The guys at Palantir gave us some hooks here. Actually, are 2 Drupal alters and an invocation of a hook, just to be able to do more advanced things, like here altering the access of a node. So you can implement this hook, and based on the information you have in the access array and on the operation that is being done on the node and the node itself, you can craft your custom permissions and deny access to this particular operation on this node. Okay, the other hooks are the list of net states that you have available. So you can hook in here, and with your custom code, PHP code, you can decide which is the list of the possible next state for this transition to go. Okay, so you can alter this not by defining with those selects that we saw before, but here hooking in code and adding complex rules and in PHP code. And the last one is a hook that fires on a transition. It gives you the basic information that you need to know to act on this transition. This could be useful to notify the head of the group of the users that are able to edit a node. I don't know, maybe just send an email to the boss. Okay, whenever it hits the published state. And I don't think we have much time for the demo, David. Yeah? Okay. So, okay. Are there any questions?
Are transitions field able?
No. No, they are not. But I haven't faced a use case. I don't know the use case that you are.
Just for writing a message, you can tell this in your article.
Yeah. Sure. There are revision comments, and you might use this when you are saving a revision. You could use that. But yeah, it's not a perfect solution. There are a lot of modules that try to extend Workbench moderation functionality, like one stupid thing that is scheduling the publish state or the one arbitrary transition. So I would go and try to find this. Okay. I think we just saw cron running. This is actually very uncomfortable. So one thing that we could do is to integrate the moderation process with rules, right? But before we do this, let's have a look on how this looks on the UI. Here you can see how I defined the several states that the node can go through. You just put a name and a description, and that's it. No secret about this. The description is not really for you, but for the people who's going to use this. And then the transitions, you can toggle transitions, create new transitions, maybe go from draft to ready for publishing, and save. And now you can allow some power users to do this transition. And a very useful thing is check permissions. Check permissions allows you to test your system without actually having to go through the system and try all this workflow, and it allows you to select a role, moderation mask, like edit moderated content, moderate content, or publish moderated content on the content types that you allowed. Okay, and to do that, to allow moderation, you just go to content types, edit moderation, edit the content type, and here you first need to create new revisions to allow revisions, and after that you can toggle the moderation. So we can save it now and set the default moderation state where all this starts. So this is just selecting what is your draft state. Okay, in our case, our draft state is just called draft. We hit save. And now we have moderation on basic pages. It's just simple like that. And going to my Workbench, my Workbench section, you can see the content I edited, my recent content. This is actually added by the Workbench module, not by Workbench moderation. But the cool thing is that all this, I don't seem to have the links activated. All these are views that you can edit and add more information. And here in my drafts, you can see the views for the needs approval state, views for ready for correction state and ready for publishing, and you can add your new views based on the states that you created, or combine them in any crazy style that you can think, using just views. And going really quick, the last thing I wanted to show you is how you can use rules to create complex stuff without having to write a single piece of code. Here the rule is called notify on transition, and fires after moderation transition. When a content is being moderated and starts a transition, you check that the content is using moderation to have access to the tokens that used in the moderation context. And here you check the context current moderation state being ready for publishing, and you compare that there is a node that is published. So here it would only trigger the action if there is a node published and the current revision is on the ready for publishing state. So this is an arbitrary condition. Then you send an email to importantperson@workbench.com. And that's kind of it for all. I don't think we have many time for questions, but if you have any, we can try to do it quick. Okay, first.
I was wondering, what is the main difference between this and revisioning? We are using revisioning. How would you describe?
So, do you mean the
module revisioning?
Oh, I don't know the model revisioning. So I'm guessing for your question that is a module that does similar things to this. Okay, I'll check it out. Sorry, here.
One of the things that Workbench suite brings you is Workbench access, which allows you to divide the site by sections, let's say, and then you can say, well, I can have workflows per section. So you can divide it by taxonomy and menus. Do you have any experience using both of them? Which is your favorite one?
I haven't had a real project I worked with Workbench Access. I just learned that Workbench Access existed and tried both systems. Both of them seem cool, and both of them have a special meaning. I'm guessing for the project that you are working on. Sometimes on some projects it's important the menu structure you're working, but other times it's not just on the menu, but how this is tagged or the taxonomy. I'm guessing that it will be on there, but as I say, I haven't really used in a real project. Okay, and the last question was over there. So the question was, I mentioned before that there is a way to prevent the person who did the revision from moderating the content to another state. So and he was guessing that this can only be done by using the hooks, and this is right. There is no user interface to prevent you from this. Okay. Well, the last question. Other questions might need to go on above that.
No, you can make that the content could be revised per user, not per role. So that content will be revised for the user one and not the two.
Oh, you mean not using roles, but using...
User reference, by instance. So one content is revised by two specific people.
Yeah, but what I'm not saying is why not creating a role to give this a more generic meaning, so you can add more people to this group or remove them without having to alter the system.
I'm thinking in a scenario where one article is revised by two people and other article is revised by other two people and are independent.
Oh, so you mean for the piece of content, not for the whole moderation? Yes, I think you could do this by building a UI and using that hook that altered access to the node, but you would need to build this. Okay, but yeah, it's absolutely possible. Okay, thank you.